Welcome to Behind the Smoke Podcast, Barbecue War Stories. My name is Sean Walchef with Cali Comfort Barbecue. We're recording above the butcher shop with my man Derek Marceau from Valley Farm Market. We are at episode number 95, and we are here to talk about craft beer in San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, think about the boom that's happened in the past, 15 years and since Prohibition and everything that's gone on with the beer industry. It's amazing to see how they've kind of helped each other grow. We talk about it a lot, and we're firm believers in a rising tide lifts all ships. So, don't try to cannibalize your opponent, or you don't even need to say opponent, but brewer and grow together. So it's we try to take a little bit from that in the barbecue scene and implement it to what we do. But seeing the craft beer scene and the growth in it, and now it's kind of getting a little stagnant on the high side of where it's going, and you're starting to see some of those breweries that might not have known what they were doing and had a good idea. They might have brewed a batch of 5 gallons and thought they were really good, and realized that it's a whole lot different when you scale it. But welcome, guys. These are the guys from TapCraft. We got Peacock and Travis. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for coming into and shooting the shit with us. And you came bearing gifts. Oh, yes. We got a 6.5%. I'd imagine it's an IPA.
Yes. So this first beer is Resilience. So if you remember, we had all the catastrophic fires up in Northern California last year. So Sierra Nevada being right in the middle of it. What can we do to help?
Sure. I remember the whole thing that they were talking about.
So they came up with this resilience recipe, and they put it out to the entire brewing community across the country. And what are we now? Over 6,000 breweries nationwide. And what was the final number? I can't even keep track of it. 4,000 breweries nationwide, and 100% of the proceeds go to this resilience fund. And my wife and I, after a delicious breakfast at Cali Comfort this past Sunday, we were up in Orange County, and a student of mine had asked us to stop by. Hey, if you're ever in the neighborhood. So we were coming down Interstate 5 through Laguna Hills, stopped by this place, Gamecraft Brewing Company. And first, whenever I go out drinking, first thing I ask, do you have a charity beer on tap? Because I want to support those that are supporting others. It's a good cause. You're doing it for whatever. I don't even care. Let me throw in my, $8 or whatever it is.
And it's an excuse to drink. I have to do it. I have to support charity.
Yes.
So I have to go and have a beer.
Absolutely. Otherwise you look like a jerk, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we didn't want to do that. So I was really surprised to see that Resilience was still up on the board. So of course, let me have a Resilience. Oh my gosh, they nailed it.
Yeah.
And then in anticipation of coming here, you know what? Let's take some on the road, put it in a crowler, and bring it on down and share it with the boys.
Isn't that crazy now what they're doing and being able to put that in a crowler? I mean, it's right. Pretty cool.
Yeah, the technology is phenomenal. Of course, it starts with great beer, and like you were alluding to, we're going through some adjustments right now in the craft beer growth here, not just in town, but I think eventually the adjustment will go nationwide. 7,000. When are we going to hit 7,000 breweries?
Yeah.
I know we've got another 20, 25 slated here for San Diego. We'll put us over 200.
Right.
What
was it before Prohibition? It was pretty high. We haven't reached it yet.
No, it was pretty high, and it was a different world.
Small barrels.
Yeah, different world. And what defined a brewer, it wasn't craft brewing. It was you were just a brewery.
Right.
And
they probably were nano breweries, right? They're probably just a little small things.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And the definition of a brewer, listen, the people that make moonshine, they're distillers,
sure,
right,
sure,
yeah, true that. So anyway, so I figured we'd start off with this charity beer because, and we'll get into it as we get into the conversation. We're all about the philosophy of TapCraft, and myself personally. We're all in this thing together, right? Whether it's from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint. We're not getting out of here alive, all of us, that's for sure. And while we're here, why not join arms and, celebrate our successes and share our burdens. And there you go. These people are hurting. We were up installing stone in Napa and the project was delayed
Because
because
of the
all
fires?
of the contractors' houses burned down.
Wow.
So, I mean, it delayed the opening of the stone up in Napa. And my wife and I went up there for a road trip, and you could see the land was scarred, but green was starting to pop up
Right.
from that. So Mother Nature, she can take care of herself for the most part. So it's the fellow humans, so if we can do it over some beer, cheers.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for
cheers.
bringing us in.
Yeah, no problem.
So out of your love of beer and your love of learning came the business of beer. That's kind of the birth of
Jesus.
TapCraft. You design draft systems
Right.
for restaurants, breweries.
Right. So my personal resume is a long and winding road. Been in the beer industry, actually been in the food service industry 40 years, bussing tables,
Yep.
and everything in between, everything short of owning a place of our own.
Yeah.
Front of the house, back of the house, all of that. And then back in 1989, about to get out of restaurant management, Budweiser, Coors, and Miller were courting me, throwing money in my direction. Hey, Peacock, come work for us. Come work for us. Work for a sports bar up in Hermosa Beach,
Okay.
owned by George Brett and his brothers. And the place was that's a whole podcast in and of itself.
Well, there's some businessmen.
Yeah.
Brett brothers.
Oh, yeah,
They're-
right?
Yeah.
So CJ Brett's, you probably
Yeah,
heard of it.
absolutely.
Yeah, back in the 80s. Anyway, so I was going out in the trade. I was going to get, I've opened enough restaurants, managed enough restaurants. Let's go, put these skills to the test. And all the beer companies wanted me to go work for them. I went to work for Coca-Cola. I went
heard
to
of them.
work for Coca-Cola. Dude, saved my life and ultimately sent me down a pathway of being a technician and then ultimately going into sales. And they took me to school, and who better to go to school than having Coca-Cola pick it up. So yeah, I learned a few things, and here we are. Fast forward to 5 years ago, the business of craft beer at San Diego State program through College of Extended Studies was born. I was getting into the beer industry with the company that I was working with. And bam, it's been.
So you were a student in the program.
I was one of the original 27 students that graduated with the first level certificate.
Awesome.
And hilarious. Bill Sysak at the time from Stone and Scott Blair from Hamilton's were instructors in the program. Oh, Peacock, congratulations. This, that. And, oh, by the way, we need you to teach a class in the program.
So the first level, is that still called the beer server?
No,
Or is that-
first, no. So,
So you got your real Cicerone.
well, actually, it's support Cicerone.
Okay.
So the program at San Diego State, the way it was originally designed, they started with like 7 or 8 classes. If you take 6 of the classes, you get level 1.
Okay.
And then take 9 classes and you get level 2. Well, now we're up to 14
Wow.
or 15 classes 5 years later.
Impressive.
Yeah. So, and I teach
Very
2. I
impressive.
teach 2 of those classes.
Okay.
What classes are those?
Draught Systems. So
Okay.
Draught Systems 1, which we're going to have our 12th session in end of March. And then Draught Systems 2 will follow that in May the first time teaching Draught Systems.
So give us
2.
Draft Systems 101 for the people that don't understand, that listen around the world,
Well,
that actually don't have draft systems.
Yeah, I was just gonna say something to the listeners, people that are starting, restaurants and breweries, and or if they're what they're doing. It is so important to understand it, and I think it's something that gets overlooked because it's out of sight, out of mind. So if your glycol system, you can't really see everything is tucked away. You're not really worried about your lines because you can't see if it has diacetyl on it, whatever it is. You can't see it, so you don't know. But guys like me, who if you're pouring me a beer, I'll be able to taste it right away. And if it's contaminated or whatever it is. So it's important to make sure you have, clean lines, that you're taking care of stuff, that you can get a short run if possible. But I'll let you're the expert on all that.
Well,
so
it goes back.
So why a draft system?
Well,
I'm opening up a restaurant and I want to I have a full liquor license. I can sell beer, liquor, wine. Why should I install a draft system?
So a draft system, the short answer to that is your business model, and you're going into business to make profit, right? So you want to be in the black, not in the red. The draft beverages, and this goes actually take a step back, not just draft beer, draft wine, coffee, kombucha, whatever crazy stuff you want to put through the draft system. That's all revenue stream, and it's all highly profitable, right? So whatever you're procuring, your list of what you're gonna sell, you're procuring that based on the quality of the product that goes with your style of restaurant, whether it's a barbecue restaurant, a pizza joint, a Mexican restaurant, right? So you've tasted it, you've sampled it, you're sold on it. And that is awesome. That's going to go great with my, pulled pork chilaquiles, right? Which actually go with quite a few things on your draft list, by the way. So you as a business owner, you're the retailer, you're delivering that to the consumer.
Yes.
Right? So you tasted it. You want to have that great moment for your guests when they drink that whatever. So the brewer, the manufacturer, they've done their job. Mm-hmm. The draft system is the final delivery piece to get that into the glass before the guest puts it to their lips, smells the aroma. That's you first taste with your nose. 90% of taste is through your nose. So to have that, you've got to have proper carbonation. Well, now we get into the science of it. It's got to be, the beer has to be handled properly. The beverage has to be handled properly before it's even hooked up to the system. It needs to acclimate to the right temperature.
Yep.
Needs to be served at the right temperature in clean glassware,
proper
technique from the server, from the tender that's pouring it, and don't let it sit on the bar waiting at the beverage station for 10 minutes. It's going to warm up to a temperature that's not optimal. You want to get it there at the right time. It's not just one thing. The draft system, a properly designed and executed draft system, has absolutely zero impact on the product because the product is perfect going in, right? I just need to get it out of that 15.5 gallon can that it's in, right? And 16 ounce, 22 ounce serving, whatever it is, and get it to the table in time. Oh, and the glass needs to be clean, right? What is that? A nice sanitizer essence on that, and that's even how are you rinsing the glasses?
Yeah.
Is your water filtered or are you giving it a nice San Diego fluoride ammonia burst up into the glassware?
What do you mean our water's beautiful here?
Oh, I know.
It's just, isn't it the best?
Dude, I was cracking up.
That comes, we're the last person to get
I was cracking up when I was listening to Sean McElhenney talk about the water up there at Alpine. Oh yeah, that's we won't go behind that curtain, but the water up there is this is mostly water.
Yep.
Right.
More to his point too, with the draft system, you're basically pulling a handle and you're filling a glass, as opposed to like if you're serving wine, you're fumbling with a bottle, you have to find an opener, that type of thing. So it's more kind of a employee cost type of thing, where if you have 30 taps, pouring a beer straight from there instead of, like I said, fumbling around with a wine bottle or, opening cans of whatever else. So it's streamlining your process of getting a beverage to your customer.
Yeah. I mean, when we were going from 8 taps to building a keg room with 24 taps, the thing that I didn't understand was the cost associated with going from a small pony keg that we were buying to an actual keg,
right?
And what that actual hard cost was, the difference in that, and what that brought our pour cost down, which was significant.
Sure. And we have that. So what you're talking about is the difference between a 6 barrel, which is just over 5 gallons, and a half barrel, which is 15.5 gallons.
Yep.
So, back in the day when it was Budweiser, Miller Lite, Coors Light, those are lagers, the style of beer. Lagers are pretty bulletproof. It's hard to screw them up. Temperature is important, but it's not as important. Clean lines are important, but not as important as they are now. Now enter the craft, and $75 a keg.
Yeah.
Now enter 2019. You've got some half barrels that are north of $200.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you've got some 6 barrels that are approaching, $1.50.
Yep.
And, oh my gosh, liquid gold, you're not kidding. And the liquid, that's where we get into some of the science of it. The fluid dynamics of it are a little more important. And, you got to treat her right. You treat her right and she will deliver all day long, but very finicky. And there's some certain styles that, Hefeweizens, wit beers, oh my gosh, boy, are they picky about the temperature and the pressure and, the cleanliness of the lines. And oh my gosh, otherwise you got a glass full of foam.
I mean, I think there's such a huge education component that goes to it until you've had a quality beer and a maintained line and you understand all the things that went into that step of the process. It's kind of like craft barbecue until you understand what's happening at Franklin's in Austin, Texas, that he's using a single barrel pit and he's smoking off of that. Until you understand that process and how much love and care goes into that, it's hard for you to appreciate, because then you just might go, around the world. When I'm in Bulgaria, they don't care about draft systems. They order bottled beer because they believe that the bottle is going to have the best quality.
Right.
Because if there are any lines, they're not maintained and they look like, and they taste like shit.
Right. So the cleanliness aspect of it, so that's gigantic. So a good friend of ours, Paul Segura, maybe you heard of him from Carl Strauss. He's Paul and I have known each other, 25 years when he was with Hang Ten, back with the Cone Restaurant Group. Yeah. And he was really excited to hear that I was going to be teaching the class at San Diego State. He teaches at the UCSD program. One of the comments he made, and I quote him in class, he goes, Peacock, I'm still, I'm a brewer. I spend 90% of my time cleaning.
Doing dishes?
Cleaning.
You're more of a dishwasher than you are a brewer.
Absolutely. And in a brewery, it's pretty aggressive dishwashing with a hose and, 120 degree, 140 degree water and, climbing into the barrels, into the vessels.
And then if you throw in a sour, if you're doing anything with the Brettanomyces around, you're like 99% washing dishes and cleaning.
So his thing was, well, wait a minute. If I spend 90% of my time in breweries as a whole making this product, 90% of the time is cleaning. Why should that stop at the draft system?
Right.
And old school. There's some. And I'm going to throw out my first real world scenario here. There are some dive bars, old school. They've been around 40, 50 years. They do not want you to touch their draft system because, and this is a quote directly from a dive bar owner, I've got the best tasting Coors Light in town and my draft system is properly seasoned. No, you don't you season a grill.
Yeah.
You don't season draft lines. You want draft lines to be, and you go into these places, the lines that are supposed to be clear are opaque. Yeah. They're supposed to be flexible and you go to bend them and they, snap, crackle, pop. It's just, stainless components. No, they're chrome plated brass. No, excuse me. They're just brass components now because the chrome left 40 years ago. And, Coors Light's not supposed to taste like anything. Yeah. And that's one of the beauties of Coors Light, award-winning beer. It's the standard in the industry for how clean it is, times how many barrels do they make a year of that 8 billion barrels of Coors Light. Well, if I need something to clean my palate, something that I can throw, 40 of them down on a hot summer afternoon out in the field, Coors Light's
only 40?
It's my jam.
44, yeah, 44, right? Yeah, maybe 44, depends.
But to attest to that, I mean, literally, when I got done with my classes, the first beer I went to was a Coors Light.
Right.
And it was just like, someone put so much time and effort into that recipe, and it's amazing for what it is. And you can't, take anything away from them.
Right.
It's amazing to have that beer, and I drink it to this day,
Well, and you talk about, so studying for your Cicerone, one of the things that they do is they give you off flavors.
Yep.
Right. So they have, they've developed it, I'm sure, over the last 10 years now. They have these off flavor kits.
Okay.
Well, you can use, I need a beer to put this off flavor in. put it in Coors Light because that's a nice neutral,
Right.
nothing,
Right.
right? So anything that we put in there should jump out of you, whether it's the buttery or the wet, soggy cardboard off taste. So as a learning tool, and you talked about scalability. Yeah, that's making 5 gallons of something awesome is fantastic. Dave Adams from Green Flash talks about it. Make that now 1,000 times.
Right.
The same exact awesome. And now we can get started.
Right.
And now you've got to convert that recipe. And, I'm talking to some chefs here in the room. Scalability, making one portion of whatever.
Yeah.
Now let's scale it up. Now we've got a party of 500 that we need to do. Yeah, there's some scalability.
It's logistics,
right?
a lot of it.
We see it a lot.
Right. So it's not a straight across equation. And I leave that for the brewers.
Right.
So in our business, I draw the line production. That's all the brewers making the product.
Mm-hmm.
We're post-production. You've already made it. Now we need to deliver it. So that's where there are plenty of brewers here in town, across the world, whether it's Sean McElhaney or, the team out at Burning Beard or Bill Sobieski up at Wild Barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, on and on and on. We've got, all the Paul Segura's, top brewers.
When we were going from 8 to 24 taps, we had people coming in and be like, you should do your own beer. You guys should brew. I'm like, why the fuck would I brew my own beer?
Exactly.
There's so many fucking amazing beers in San Diego. Why not just let them do what they do best and celebrate what we do and pair it with barbecue?
Well, or how about this? Let me get through all of those.
Yeah.
And learn from them.
Yeah.
And if there's any time left, maybe we'll, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah. You talk about it, and we talk about scalability, and we see it in barbecue. People that, can go out and win a KCBS competition, and, they can make really, really good quality barbecue.
Right.
Well, now do that and try to do $3 million a year in a restaurant.
Right.
It's a completely different animal.
Right.
And with the water...
Right.
So if I'm just doing, because I used to homebrew all the time and I don't do it much anymore, but everything was exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about my water because it's just, I don't know really what I was getting. I don't know how many parts per million and all that stuff. So now I got to scale that. And how many barrels am I going to do? And I'm like, dude, you're lost. You're absolutely lost. And it varies from location to location. You see a lot of these breweries that are going like, from California to Colorado or the East Coast, your beer ain't the same. Right. I promise you it's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Back early in my career, I think it was actually the second restaurant I worked at. It was Gino's East of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And they Let Us Entertain You brought the concept out to Southern California.
Really?
And we opened a location up in Manhattan Beach.
Right.
And sandwich.
Deep dish Chicago style pizza that is just unbelievable. I mean, I'm getting chills right now. Just oh man, I'm hungry too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so obviously it's all about the pizza.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they had their own special sausages and this cheese out of Joliet, and they had this dough and the pans and everything. And they brought the executive chef out here to train our staff. And all kinds of colorful language coming from the kitchen. I was working in front of the house. I was out on the floor, and they're cooking these pies, putting them up for us to take out, and oh my gosh, we can't get the dough right, and they're beautiful.
Yeah. And
listen, I'm a Southern California boy. Deep dish pizza. I've never experienced anything like this in my life. How is this not amazing,
right?
But chef being chef, sure. I get it. Brewmaster being brewmaster, right? And I was in my early 20s, just this smart ass little punk, and I made the comment from our side of the line. I'm all, well, we're not in Chicago. The water's different here. And he had a knife in his hand, and I swear he was coming over the counter, coming at me, because I must have been the way that I said it. Coming after me, and they had to hold him back. And
that's That was it.
That's what it is.
That's
That's
exactly
what
what it was.
That's
exactly
exactly
what
what
it
it was.
Yeah.
The next day, FedEx showed up with 2 5-gallon Sparklets bottle of Lake Michigan water.
Uh-huh.
Problem solved. Then the next day they had a water chemist come in. They installed, and this was back in the early 80s.
Wow.
They installed a water filtration system, and back then the price tag was north of $10,000 just for this one water spigot, and you could not, that was only for making dough. And the rest is history. So they got the water profile. So back in the 80s, whether it's making pizza or whether you're talking to Sean at Alpine,
Yep.
his secret ingredients is the water. Part of the reason why our West Coast IPAs are so awesome is because of the hard water out here in the West Coast. New England IPAs, no, the water is different back there.
Yeah.
And when I was back in Virginia Beach installing the Green Flash back there, I went out to dinner and, a double New England IPA. I went into one of the local places. Oh, are you sure about that?
Right.
Young man, I want to make sure that, you know what you're getting yourself into. Oh, no, listen, it's delicious.
You think the Cicerone is different now?
Yeah.
They have books written on just water.
Really?
And it's the pardon the pun, but it's the driest reading that you'll ever do.
Right.
Because it's just straight water and it's like all chemicals. And
I'm
it's
so fucking
but there's-
happy I'm not doing it now.
Yeah, it's
It's pretty
insane how
gnarly.
they.
No, I've just heard stories about people that tell me that they're, I actually send, when I hire new employees that do my beer, wine, and liquor, I'll send them to different classes to just get their beer server, whatever, just to, just so that get a little bit of knowledge
Right.
on what's going on. And they're coming back and they're telling me, I'm like, you had to do that for the beer server? And they're
Right.
like,
Yep.
yeah. I'm like,
Right.
wow, that's actually pretty cool, but it's, there's a lot of stuff. People don't understand what goes into it. It's very, 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 very meticulous and not everyone's palate is there, and that's okay. And it's, you just have to kind of figure it out. I just was blessed with a really, really refined palate. It's something that I did crazy. It's just,
Well,
I
there's
could figure
something
it
like
out.
180 different beer styles now. So
Yeah.
you're trying to get your knowledge
Sure.
nailed down on just a few styles it's even.
Well, and even looking at our beer out here, our beer is pretty shitty if you really think about it compared to like, a European beer and how well balanced a lot of those European beers are. We're getting a lot better out here. But when you were talking about your beer and what you named it, that was my favorite beer style, but now they're different styles everywhere, man. And
Sure.
It's like, man, I can't even keep up. What are we drinking now? I mean, I'm talking about you're bringing in lots of good stuff.
Yeah, it's if we're going to talk about it, we got to talk about it.
Sure.
So one of our very good friends, actually, third anniversary coming up. East County, out here in East County, Burning Beard
Amazing.
in El Cajon.
Yep.
I mean, Jeff and Mike, when I first met them, it was a tough sell. TapCraft were not the least expensive in town by far, but here's the thing: I've been in this industry long enough. I can justify. I want to spend your money,
Right.
but I don't want to spend all of your money. But I want to spend the right amount of money, and I can justify return on investment every single one of these line items.
Okay.
So I said the right things. Here we go. They went with us. The space is amazing, and the brewing is just
Is Shannon still there?
phenomenal. Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Lady Beards. Oh yeah, and a couple of them. Who's out there? Stina. Who's students of mine? Stina, and I think that's it. Shannon, I'm probably going to have come in and guest speak in one of my classes. It's just phenomenal, actually, and we're going to do a workshop out there.
Yes.
And maybe for Draught Systems too, we'll have a site.
Also,
when
also
you-
the coolest
so
tap
this is-
handles in
so-
San Diego.
Yeah.
Really?
Jeff made those by hand,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, I get this text 12:30 at night, 1 a.m, and he's like shooting me pictures of he's in the shop handcrafting these tap handles.
Awesome.
In his it's a metalworking shop. He's second generation Consolidated Metals. I think that was his grandfather's place out there. So this is Burning Beard. It's a 32-ounce crowler of their Banksy, which is an ESB, extra special bitter, which is not, that's just a name. I don't know that the bitterness is It is extra special.
It's a bronze medal winning beer. No big deal.
Right. You guys need more.
Great American.
Yeah.
Nice, dude. That's amazing, and that's hard just in itself. Getting those awards and those, getting recognized. You're seeing a lot of these smaller breweries get recognized because they're really, putting the time and effort into their craft. So you go to the class, you're one of the first 27.
Right.
And you were already thinking about doing this, or how did this come about?
At the time the program started, I was working for a national beverage gas company. So
nitrous.
Well, yes, that's the punchline. I'll give you the cue on when to say that. So back before Anheuser-Busch was purchased by InBev and was still family owned, they were getting their ass kicked nationally on their draft beer systems. 80% of the service calls were gas related. So Anheuser-Busch, and I forget which one it was, they go, you know what, we need to address this, nip it in the bud nationally, because some of their other branches were being affected similarly. So they created this entity called the Center for Draft Excellence, and it was 4 companies nationally: Anheuser-Busch, Micromatic, who is an equipment manufacturer, and at the time Tap Dynamics, which had technology that monitored the sales. So it was plugged into your draft system, plugged in your point of sale system, and you could track how much of that Budweiser, or what's your yield out of that 15 gallons, how much you're selling.
Yep.
Are you getting, 15 and a half gallons should be 124 16-ounce servings. Well, no, it was not that. So right. Tap Dynamics, rest in peace, they're long gone, but supported that. And then the gas component was this company out of Florida called UCO2, beverage gas company. Beverage grade CO2 was the only thing that they sold. They were invited in. Hey, we've got a national sales team. We can roll out this program just like that nationally through the 50 some sales reps, 150 some depots, and we can nip this thing quickly. Well, no sooner than the program rolled out, InBev came in. Oh, here's $94 billion.
Yeah.
Are you interested? That's a pretty big carrot. And it shifted their focus. So, but New CO2 was already on the hook, and they had invested in quality gas equipment. And hey, let's go into the beer industry. Primarily, they were serving restaurants and supporting Coca-Cola and Pepsi and other beverages with their beverage grade CO2. But hey, let's get into this beer thing, and that's when nitrogen is a beer gas. So let's partner with McDantum and have a proprietary gas blender. It blends the CO2 and the nitrogen for the different blends. Let's partner with a company out of Chicago and make a nitrogen generator, because nitrogen is 78% in the air around us. So you can make a glorified air compressor, pull the molecules out of the air, clean them, separate them, and put them in storage very easily. So a nitrogen generator, and it's a profit center for them as well. So I'm brand new with the company. I'm back in Florida I've been with the company 2 months.
You were living in Florida?
No, I was here in San Diego,
okay.
But I'm brand new with the company.
Got it.
I'd only been employed with them for a couple months. They sent me back for onboarding and training, and all the VPs, all the bigwigs are there, and they're so excited, like a bunch of little kids. There's about a dozen of us salespeople from across the country, and they're announcing this new program, this new beer program. Okay. And we're going to roll it out in 4 markets. Of course, Florida here, where the headquarters is. So and then we're going to do Chicago. We're going to do Chicago, Dallas, and Denver. And here's this I'm raising my hand for those of you that are watching on radio. Here's this young shy guy from San Diego, and I said, well, excuse me, San Diego was just voted the craft capital in Men's Journal.
Right.
And all these VPs are all, wait, what? All these, and I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah.
These beer experts, oh, we're going into the beer business now. We're going to be, the go-to as far as that. Well, they didn't even realize that San Diego, ever heard of Stone, ever heard of Carl Strauss, ever heard of, Green Flash and all this other thing. Darn it, there's billboards in San Diego. They're craft capital of the world. So that was on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, they announced to the group that there's 5 rollout markets.
Now there's 5.
And ultimately, they only had a budget for 4, so we bumped out Denver, of all cities to bump out. We bumped out Denver, and I had really stuck my foot. But that's kind of the way that I go, right?
Obviously, you almost got a knife big to your neck at the restaurant.
So I come back. I come back to my depot manager here, and I said, listen, dude, you're going to be sorry that you got me a job with this company because we're going to beer school.
Yeah.
And he was stoked about it, and here we are. We went to beer school, and at this time I had not had a beer in 20 years. Mm-hmm. When I went to work for Coca-Cola, I went clean and sober.
Yeah.
Changed my life, saved my life. We wouldn't be sitting here if I hadn't done that at that time. That's a story for another podcast.
Right.
But so I hadn't had a beer, and I still wasn't drinking. And I'm going, okay, well, let me go around to some of my customers. I know they pour beer, and Coca-Cola had trained me. They destroyed me. It's all about quality. And you're only as good as the last soft drink that you served. You're only as good as the last barbecue that you did, the last tomahawk steak that was cut that came out of your store.
Yeah, sure.
It's all about quality, right? So that was one of the things that I had brought to San Diego for Coca-Cola was the quality of the soft drinks that were being served from the fountain. We crushed Pepsi through the 90s. Well, now we're in the 2000s. It's all about beer. And I'm looking at these draft systems, and I don't even need to drink a beer. Right. That looks like crap.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not, in fact, Travis will talk about it. It's a joke in the industry. If I'm out and about drinking beers and I'm drinking out of a can at a location and the draft system is sitting right there 10 feet away from me, but Peacock's drinking out of a can.
There's a reason.
And I'll do it on purpose. I won't even pour the can into a glass because I want to make sure that Derek and Sean know from across the room that the draft system.
You better buy a can.
The draft system is not drinkable here, dude. Lay your $8 down for this bottle or can, not for what they're putting in the glass because it's going to be crap. So anyway, I knew that there was going to be an issue with the quality of the beverages coming out of these systems. So I tried to get my clients to help me. They did a little bit, but I'm all, you know what? I need to go to school.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah, did you hear that San Diego State's talking about putting a program together? So I get into it real quick and I sign up. I'm one of the first people to sign up for the program. And I try to get my company to pay for it, but that's no. Anyway, it's actually probably good that they didn't because I own the investment. Anyway, so I went to school and I saw in the curriculum, we're going to be drinking beer. So I had a personal dilemma. I haven't had a beer in over 20 years.
Yep.
To be successful in this, I'm going to have to drink beer.
Yep.
And class is starting TikTok. It's September 5th, whatever. So I've got to, well, in the meantime, I turned on my son, who was not 21 at the time. Hey, why don't you get into, I kind of manipulated the situation. Hey, why don't you get into home brewing?
Right.
I hear that that's a thing. And it encourages science,
Sure.
right? Brewing, it's all about the science, right? It's chemistry, it's biology, it's water science, it's physics, fluid dynamics, thermodynamics, all these great things. Dude, if you want to make great beer, you're going to have to go to school and learn all this sciencey stuff, right? So that was kind of my justification. Well, he did it. And the first beer I had was like a couple weeks before class started. It was amazing. I forget what he made.
That's
But
great that it was amazing, because the first beer I ever made
Yeah.
was absolutely horrible, and I drank every last sip of it.
His palate
Just-
might not be where it needs to be.
No. And I'll just put that out there right now. Palate, no. You're the Cicerone.
Right.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be giving you a call.
Right.
Because, listen, I know what I like.
Right.
And I've really only sent a couple beers back. Usually it's not the beer's fault. Usually it's the glassware's fault or the server. Dirty glassware is,
Killer.
that's so avoidable.
Yeah.
I mean, just clean the,
It's unbelievable.
stinking
Yeah.
glass. Come on. But no, palate and the Cicerone thing. No, that's not beer. Again, that's your guys' job.
Right.
Where I'm going to do is I know what I like. I pretty much like it all.
Mm-hmm.
The only beer that I've never really liked was the early versions of Habanero Sculpin.
Mm-hmm.
From shaking your head, from Scripps Ranch, Scripps Ranch, straight out of the brewery, dude. It wiped us out. It wiped us out for 4 hours. Killed our taste buds. We couldn't even, 5 of us, we couldn't even finish a taster of it, and we left it behind. But anyway,
So you had your beer, your son's beer.
So now I've had 3 months shy of 25 years sober.
Wow.
But it's a different life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a different person, and the rationale is different now. Back then it was volume driven, party driven, culturally driven, whatever. Now it's,
Or masking driven. You might have been dealing with stuff that now you've already dealt with it after 25 years. And you're good.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather.
Right.
The life is different now. We all have our stories, right?
Sure.
Yeah, we all have our stories. But here we are.
Wow. So you did the craft, the
So-
TapCraft.
So
Went into the program, took all the classes.
Mhm.
A lot of the instructors were clients of mine anyway. So one of the classes was Brewery Startup 2. So Brewery Startup 1, taught by Matt Johnson formerly of Helms. Now he's with Bay City. Bay City, yeah. That's if you want to, and they're trying to talk you out of it. Because it's a pretty scary class. You sure you want to open a brewery? Here's all the laws, the ABC, the TTB.
you sure you want to open a brewery or a restaurant?
This, that, and the other thing. And Helms had some pretty interesting stories with their neighbors. What's that smell? What? Oh my gosh, what is that smell?
Yeah.
And it's heaven is what that smell is, but not to the other tenants. And they felt that that was driving away their clients. And anyway, so Brewery Startup 2 was, okay, let's put together a business plan. So it was taught by KP, who is a marketing guy, not even in the beer industry, but he knows how to write a business plan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So we had a 6-week class, come up with a concept, and we're going to write a business plan. So mine was a little bit different because I did not want to do a brewery specifically, but for kicks and giggles, let's create this business plan. At the time, BottleCraft was one of our clients, and we had just done a job for Brian, and I kind of stole the name. Well, Brian is off-premise and with a little bit of on-premise, but bottles and craft was the big buzzword back then. So I'm all, well, wait a minute, we're about taps, so what about TapCraft? And ultimately TapCraft was a class assignment.
That's awesome.
For the program. So it was born in the program. I had already met Travis and a couple other people in the program, and they were, we were all just cracking up over the whole thing, and TapCraft was born. A couple months later, I got with Candace Moon, the craft beer attorney, and Deborah Druther, who teaches finance in the program. I said, what do you think? Can we put this thing together? And October of 2015, TapCraft was born.
That's awesome.
One guy in his truck.
Well, hey, when there's a gold rush, it's not always, you don't always want to be a miner. You want to be the guy that's selling the shovels to all the miners.
There you go.
You took a different path. Good for you.
So anyway, so that's kind of the, and been an instructor. My class does pretty well. I've had in 11 classes over the last 3.5 years, over 325 students.
Any of them open up breweries?
Oh yeah.
Who did they call?
Exactly. Well, exactly. Well, and then one of the other beers we have it's on deck is Wild Barrel. So Wild Barrel is Bill Sysak and Bill Sobieski up in San Marcos. They just had their 1-year anniversary this past weekend. Of course, Bill is we did their draft system. We did the draft system at Burning Beard. We did
Wheat and Water.
Our boy Ted. Yeah, our boy Ted.
Hello.
Ted, great. Right.
We had Ted on the podcast. He was he was our first non-barbecue podcast. It was
nice.
About how he opened up Wheat and Water in La Jolla. But
and that's not all of our clients are breweries.
Yep.
Our clients are retailers as well.
Restaurants.
Right. Yep. So, maybe you've heard of a few, Phil's Barbecue, Crack Shack, other restaurants in town, that we've done, Ted at Wheat and Water, and one of his partners, Doug Ritz, we had worked with previously, so he understood the importance of it. And their draft system, very complex, 30 faucets, some long draw, some short draw, wine. They have a wine component, red wine, which is cellar temperature, and white wine, which is a little bit colder, and then they have coffee, kombucha, all localized. So this beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous pipe tower that was, custom built, pretty expensive. And you got plenty of expenses building the place. And, by the time you give a call to me, you've run out of money. And which is kind of ironic because, in my opinion, the revenue centers should be the first thing that you budget for when you're putting together your construction budget, right? Of course, the kitchen, because that's what's going to bring people in the door. But, and here's a little bit of my pitch. We're all guests at some point or another, whether we own a restaurant or a brewery or whatever. We're all guests because we all go out with family, friends, whatever. To an establishment, whether it's a bar, a tavern, a brew pub, or a restaurant,
or a stadium,
the first thing that touches your lips is usually a beverage, whether it's water, soda, coffee, beer, wine, whatever. So it's important that be amazing, right? And bookend it. It's the first thing that your palate touches is a beverage. And it's also, what's the last thing I always do when you get up to leave? Oh, is my beer finished?
Finish your beer.
Is my cocktail finished? Is my soda finished? And then out of respect for Mother Earth, if I asked for water, I'm going to make sure that I take all that water with me, right?
No,
Just otherwise I'm being wasteful, right? Well, all of those touch points for the guest need to be amazing, right? Well, we can talk about the water if you want, but that's not a revenue stream. But, the draft beverage, or even when I was with Coca-Cola, the quality of the post-mix beverage, there's a lot of margin in that for you, the operator. Every meal needs to come with a beverage, whether it's a soft drink or an alcoholic beverage. And, I'll just have water. Well, there are some restaurant chains now that you're paying for that fancy water where they've got the special filtration and everything, and it's served in a flip top bottle. You're laying down $1 for that.
Right. Yeah.
Look for it I promise you, not too many in town, but there are some in other areas where they're paying for that.
Yeah.
So it's a revenue stream, right? And anyways,
it's very cool. And how did you guys get together?
Just to the class.
Yeah, I was a student with Peacock. We started Beer 101, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we struck up a friendship that way. And I almost had to talk him into starting TapCraft a little bit because he was already in the business on that side with what he was doing a little bit. And he kind of always had the idea. So I think I nudged him along a little bit.
Right.
And then, we just kept in contact through that. And then there was students that were in the class with us that actually opened a brewery, Three Punks down in Chula Vista.
Oh yeah.
So it was a small community within the classroom that we kept in contact with all these people that were actually doing things in the community or in the industry anyway. So I kept in contact with him, and then we just kind of he was looking to get the word out there of what type of company we were, and he brought me on board to kind of help out with that networking and getting the name out there. It's kind of a niche industry that he's trying to do anyway. So trying to get us in different places, such as podcasts with you guys and restaurant groups and that type of thing, getting our name out there in places that might not necessarily know that we're out there, but can still help. We do a restaurant lunch meetup every month and network with some people that way. So it's basically trying to get our name out there in front of people that right away didn't necessarily click of, oh, well, we want to start serving more local product. How do we go about doing that?
Right.
And now we're in a spot where we're actually getting people contacting us. Like we had a sushi restaurant that had a place that they were taking over, had 30 taps. They didn't need that many. They want to consolidate down to 8 or 10 or something like that. What do we do with the rest of that equipment to get it out and consolidate down to what we're doing? So
that's smart of them to contact you instead of a general contractor.
Or like me, I'll just rip the shit out.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's like, and then that's when you actually start costing yourself a lot of money.
And we've had, because it's just another piece of equipment
Right.
and it's been sitting there for whatever. Oh, and it looks like crap. So it's not worth anything, but yeah, we work with a lot of contractors. So, I've been down here since '89. Coca-Cola brought me down here, and almost immediately I started building the Peacock brand.
Right.
Well, regardless of who I work for, whether it's Coca-Cola or UCO2 or some other company, I don't know, give Peacock a call.
Right.
It's about that, establishing that relationship, but then also to build on something that Travis said. Around the same time TapCraft was born, there was a local beer distributor that was born, Brown Bag Beverage and Susie Bags. And I figured, I met her. She's amazing. We go to market very similarly. It's about this, and it's about having your name in my phone book. And I run into trouble on a Saturday and I'm out of beer and I need a keg. Susie or one of her reps, they'll throw it in the back of the, they'll go down to the warehouse.
No, absolutely.
And it's about that level of service. Well, Travis was, you were what, her first employee?
I was, yeah. I was lugging kegs around
everywhere.
Well, it's funny. Our warehouse was Chula Vista, and I was doing deliveries up in Oceanside, so I was literally covering.
And you're talking to these restaurants like, "Fuck, you guys knew you were low on this. Couldn't you just please?" And they're,
I want to do kind of an expose, I guess, of I've been in some of the most disgusting beer coolers in San Diego, so I know exactly where to go,
right,
and what's clean and what is not.
Right.
But he won't let me do it quite yet, so I'm chomping at the bit for that one, just to not necessarily call out these businesses, but like,
right,
Well,
it's hard too. I mean, especially with you guys, you're an independent. You're not with a distributor,
right?
You got guys like Anheuser-Busch, or when Pat was trying to do every system around and doing all those things. It's but you nailed it. It's about relationships, and that's really what sets you apart. It's not a transactional thing. It's about, how do I create this relationship where they know they can call me or they can call Travis, and we're there on the Saturday when shit's going down, and you guys, that's our revenue stream. And it's the same thing that we have to do with our smokers, right? We use Old Hickory smokers. Like I got to know that I can call Luke, or I can call someone and be like, hey, what's going on? That's where it's at. For guys like us, like, I can't have something that's great and amazing, but I have to call and there's a customer service line and I can't get through, and then the part's going to come in 3 or 4 days. Right. Well, I'm down for 3 or 4 days. Fuck that. That can't be.
No, you know? that can't be. And we're building the business. We're going into our third, fourth year now. Small business, extreme growing pains. Thank you, Travis, for talking me into opening our own business. Oh, brother, it's just, sleepless nights. And, we have it's a small family, 5 of us full time, 2 or 3 of us part time, but, they've got bills to pay, mouths to feed.
Sure.
That's a lot.
That's on your shoulders.
I'm feeling the pressure. And, having worked, I've worked for someone else my entire career and, just took it for granted that, the check's going to show up every 2 weeks or whatever, and don't have to worry about it. Don't have to worry about collections and unless so it's kind of we're going through some changes right now. I've been pulled into the office far too much. Mm-hmm. My strength is out in the trade and establishing the relationships and getting Peacock in the house to talk about, we did Kairoa Brewing mm-hmm. Up in University Heights, and Jessica and Shannon called me in. Hey, Peacock, can you come do a quick training for our staff? Yeah. Education is what my job is.
Sure.
At any level, right? So I went in, and the person that was supposed to do training behind me was running a little bit late. I just kept going.
Yeah.
I just kept going, and these kids that they're staffed with, I've known some of them from other locations. Mm-hmm. They certainly know of me. I don't think there were any students in that team, but they appreciate the little nuggets that I was bringing in. 40 years in the industry, maybe I know a thing or two. Maybe I know a thing or two. And what I'll tell the students is, I'll create a scenario. Hey, Sean, Derek, and Peacock are going to go out for beers later. Who cares where we're going? Wherever we go, they've already sold 3 beers. Right. We haven't even walked in the door, and they've sold 3 beers. So my position is selling the first beer is easy.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the key. Can you sell the next one? And as soon as those 3 knuckleheads walk in the door, you got to start working on getting them their second beer.
Yep.
And how are you going to do that? Well, you're certainly not going to do it if your draft system is tainting that liquid gold that the house spent $2.25 for that keg. Well, no, they're not going to sell very much of it.
Yep.
Because half of it's going down the drain because the system is not maintained or designed properly. Well, okay, there's, half of it down the drain. And then the other half, no, it's coming back. Oh, and those 3 knuckleheads, yeah, they're not sticking around.
Yeah.
They're going someplace else. Or was that beer amazing? It was, created that experience. Heck yeah, I want another round. And we're calling up our buddies. Can you bring that table over here? Because we got 4 more guys coming. And who do we talk to about setting up a meeting here for next week?
Yep.
Because we're having a company party. That's what you need to create. And I'm painting this scenario for the students, and they're, ding, 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 ding. The lights are going off in the room, going, oh, and whether you're the guest or whether you're an employee or whether you're an owner, we need to be having that conversation. And it's been taken for granted for so long. Oh, just plug in the Coke machine and, push the little lever and a Coke comes out. Oh, just pull that handle.
Yeah.
And, here's what's happened as far as the operators, the retailers are concerned, is as this industry has gone vertical over the last decade, there is a vacuum at the bottom for qualified staff, right? So the best example is the ballpark.
Yep.
At Petco. And number one, Petco being just one of the top 3 ballparks in all of Major League Baseball to begin with. So great job building a beautiful facility. And then, let's be the craft beer ballpark.
Right.
Well, third-party contractors run those stands.
Correct.
And it is a warm body, and I'm not bagging on anybody that's doing this.
No, it's honest. It's honest.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest fear about going, expanding your brand into a stadium is that you lose that control.
And so one of my fellow instructors, Jake Nunes, who's the GM over at North Park Beer Company, was previously with Ballast Point before the acquisition by Constellation, and he sent me. He teaches beer styles too, so he sends me this picture of a Ballast Point marketing image of Petco, because there's a whole tower of Ballast Point beers, right? And the beer tender is doing everything wrong.
I was saying, I can't even imagine what
he's grabbing the tap handle at the top.
Very top.
He's got the glass jammed up into the faucet and submerging. And it was just a still picture, but I'm sure that it was just going to be overflowing. So, part of me is, and he's embarrassed by it. And I'm all, listen, I get that it's a marketing picture and you've got to stage it accordingly, but if it had gone past my desk for approval, I would have turned it down. You still need to demonstrate, not just to the locals, but to the world, that you're representing the brand correctly. So that, in a nutshell, is the story of our life. I'm out there and nobody's having this conversation.
Well, that's
well, Sean has to do it at, or you did have to do it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Down at now it's Pechanga Arena. Pechanga Arena, right, which used to be Valley View Casino Center. Yeah. But we sell our barbecue down there, so a lot of what we had to do is going in and training the staff of how things need to be plated.
Because it's not his staff.
Because it's not my staff.
No, exactly. It's a third-party contractor.
Yeah. But Levy, thankfully, we have an incredible relationship
fantastic.
with them.
And I love them.
They're so hands-on, even their managers,
right,
that if I go to a Gulls game and I see the barbecue sauce isn't full, all I have to do is look at them and they know, and they get it filled. So
actually, that's actually a good possible revenue stream for us, is because I do trainings, right? How about I do a training for one of these concessionaires when they go into a facility? Hey, can we have a 30, 45 minute, 1 hour Draught Systems session before you open your doors, whether you're going into Petco or Pechanga or Dodger Stadium or whatever, just to help. It's painful enough that 20-ounce beer is $18.
Sure.
It's painful enough, but listen, we can kind of temper that a little bit, mitigate that pain point for the consumer.
Absolutely.
And let's deliver it awesome.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'll give you guys credit if I can sign that deal with these concessionaires, and whether it's Levy or Delaware North,
absolutely, or AEG. Whoever it is, it's
whoever
about education.
It is, it's important, because ultimately this industry comes down to, and I was talking about it, I think before we went on air, as humans, we're designed for fellowship.
Yeah.
And the industry, if you're in this industry to make millions, that needs to be revisited, because that's not the value for me personally now as a business owner. That's not the value that I get out of this. So I'm old school, Zig Ziglar, what did they call it? The Highway University, back when you had these, it wasn't podcasts, it was cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Or it was CDs.
Yep.
And you put it, for doing that. Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, Covey, all of these, and even my pastor, Miles McPherson at The Rock, these guys have nuggets of wisdom. Well, Zig Ziglar, one of his things, and I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, you can get everything in life that you want if you help enough others get what they want. So I go back to a conversation I had with a little mom and pop when I was with Coca-Cola. And here I come in, I've got the Coca-Cola trademarked vehicle. I'm all Dapper Dan, with my Coca-Cola shirt and my business card, and I've got my sales book, and it's Coca-Cola logo, the most recognized trademark in the world. And what's this Betty's Kitchen? Why, Coca-Cola, why do you even care about Betty's Kitchen? And, what can you do for me? And I'm all, oh my gosh, I'm coming in. I need to change my pitch because that's completely the opposite of what it is. Coca-Cola started off as one location, right? No, it's Betty, let's sit down and have a conversation. Or Phil Pace up in Mission Hills.
Yeah, Goldfinch.
Up in that location.
For sure.
Phil, 20 years ago, Phil and I sat down and had a conversation, and he's, God bless him, he's still one of our customers, today. But Betty, this is your dream. Right. This is your dream. It's got your name literally on the outside of the thing. What can I do? And to bring the power of this, the equity of this global brand to Betty's Cafe.
I think that's something good for our listeners to hear. And it's when you go into somewhere, and if you're selling something or whatever it is that you're doing, it's what added value are you bringing to those people? And it can't be just, it can be just to try to get a transactional thing done. Right. But the majority of the time is you just have to be a good person and you do those things genuinely. Good things will follow. The money always follows. Right. It always follows. Just be a good person. Right. Do the right thing. Try to help that person. Right. See what you can do for them. All of a sudden, that gain that you were trying to get, that what you're trying to do, it comes. Right. It's there, but it's a process. And it's not just about me. Right. What am I going to get? What are you going to do for me? It's like, no. What can I do for you? I want to put myself out there as much as I can to see what I can do for other people. Right. That's where it's at. And those feelings, the money follows, which is great, but those feelings that you get, money can't even buy that shit. Right. You cannot buy that value.
Yeah, priceless. Right. Yeah. So again, back to our tagline, we're all in this thing together. Right. I say that how many times a day, and a lot. Coming from everything that I do, we're all in this thing together, and it's a bunch of little things. So we have the resilience. I mean, they were telling me at GameCraft, just that location has generated over $6,000 from resilience sales to the fund.
Right. It's amazing,
right? I mean, it's just huge. These glasses that you're drinking out of, this is the Sorai Cup 2018. This is a local charity-driven. Brian Beagle is the Sorai guy. So this is an annual competition. TapCraft is supporting it again, year 7 this year. It's a competition between all local San Diego craft breweries, a competition between year-round produced beers. So number one, you need to have been in business for a year or more. Sure. And you need to have been producing this beer for the last 12 months.
Not a seasonal
thing. So this they have a big competition. It's a big thing. There's voting. It's this, that, and the other thing. And then they come up with the top 10, and 10 of us get around, and that's a heck of a day. We come up with, the winners of that. But the whole thing benefits charity.
It's awesome.
This whole thing benefits charity. And which do you remember which charity this is?
I don't remember that one, but that one focuses on he does a food drive at the end of the year.
Right, the Sorai Sudsmas.
And he generated over 7,000 pounds of food in December through this food drive. That's amazing. He does that in the summer, and then he does the food drive towards the end of the year.
Right, it's a food drive coordinated with Society. Mm-hmm. Sorai brought in about 50% of the food donations to that bigger cause. And, it's tapping into the industry, right? And I'll support this all day long. One of the things that TapCraft wants to do is, as we grow and get bigger, again, giving back, all of the all 7 of us, 8 of us, we all have our own personal charity that we would like to benefit. And again, this industry is all about collaboration, right? So, me and my crazy mind, I'm thinking, let's do a TapCraft collaboration, let's say with Burning Beard, where for me, my charity is Voices for Children, which supports foster kids. Let's do a beer with Burning Beard. Let's agree with Burning Beard on what that beer is going to be, how big the batch is going to be. Obviously, they'll have it in their tasting room and they'll sell it, and then we'll take it to our pocket accounts. We'll take it to Ted over at Wheat and Water, and I'll say, hey, we're doing a charity thing. You want to be part of this? You sell it, and let's generate some revenue. It's going to Voices for Children we'll put it out in the trade, maybe 20, 30 locations and we'll make a big deal out of it. Social media, this, that, and the other thing. And again, we're all in this thing together, helping this, and look at the beer community and coming together. And it's just amazing. Make a big deal out of it. And hopefully we can only lead by example, right?
Absolutely.
And it needs to be okay that, we're not driving a Bentley, and that we're not doing this, and that, we all know somebody that's had cancer. We all know somebody that's been in the foster system. And, listen, life's tough enough.
Sure.
Just add there's enough crap out there, right?
Yeah.
So let's link arms however we can.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming down here, and everything that you're doing, obviously, with continuing education is huge. So any of our listeners that are interested in the SDSU program, we'll put links in the show notes, as well as the things that we talked about today. How do people get in touch with you guys if they have questions?
Yeah, we do most stuff on Instagram. It's TapCraft_Draught. It's DRAUGHT. It's a proper spelling, I guess. Brewers Association spells it that way, so that's how we do it. And then Facebook as well. You can find us. I think if you do at TapCraft SD, you can find us there. We do most of our stuff through those two mediums. Tapcraft.net. You can also find our stuff there.
Perfect. Well, if anybody has any questions, we're going to make sure they reach out to you. Every week we do a Behind the Smoke shout out. So anybody using the hashtag Behind the Smoke, doesn't always have to be barbecue. It can be beer, business, whatever you're doing. We appreciate you listening to the show. But this week it's going to Brandon Hodges of Pale Blue Smoking Co. He's doing catering, barbecue parties, mobile pop-ups, live fire cooking right here in beautiful mid-Michigan. So congrats to Brandon Hodges, and we're going to send you out a Behind the Smoke mug. We appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. If you want to know beer in San Diego, reach out to these guys because they're the experts. But thank you guys for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.